Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, your one-stop shop for District 4 athletics, week in, week out. Brandon Baney joined today by the Dark Passenger. You're so brooding and moody.
Well, yeah, you know what? And the funny thing is, Brandon, that the Dark Passenger was, before we came on, I'm trying to think, all right, what's going to be my nickname this time? Kind of what's the vibe? What's happening? Well, right before you texted me and said, hey, we're getting ready to go, I have a second grader, and I got a text from her mother, my ex-wife, and it was one of her assignments and about writing some sentences. And Paisley, my daughter, was apparently not in a very good mood when she wrote these. And so I'm sitting here reading these 10 sentences because she had to use a word. And they were, I mean, I would not show this to any psychologist in the Valley, or I'm going to be in front of a grand jury, I think. I mean, I will show, I'm going to text it to you when we're done here. I can't even, nothing vulgar, anything bad, nothing like that. But it definitely has a Dark Passenger quality to it. And I'm sitting there reading this, and I'm like, I can't believe what I'm reading right now, you know? And that's about all I can say. And so there's the Dark Passenger for you, because when she was born, her mother and I were always like, yeah, she's a brilliant kid, sweetheart, whatever. But when she gets mad, she's got a little Dark Passenger in her. And right before we came on, I got this assignment, and I'm like, holy crap, that is the Dark Passenger. So I'll share that with you when we're done, but holy cow, there's the name.
Okay, can't wait for that. Yeah, when you were talking about that, the only thing I could think of were those like really cheesy, don't do drugs commercials from the 90s. And I'm not saying that obviously your kid's not on drugs, but it made me think about this. There was the commercial where the dad confronts the kid and like, what are you doing with this marijuana? Where did you even learn about this? And he's like, I learned it from you,
Dad. Yeah, exactly. I learned it from you, Dad. No, I remember those. That's exactly right. So yeah, maybe I need to examine where she's getting this Dark Passenger from, because she's obviously getting it from either me or her mother. And I am just the most jovial, fun, upbeat guy you will ever meet. And so it's obviously not me, Brandon.
Clearly.
Well,
other people that are jovial and feeling good this week include the Raft River girls basketball team and the Declo boys basketball team. And that's what we're going to be talking about on today's episode of the Magic Valley Prepcast. Let's get right into it. Let's start with Raft River's girls. I
wondered how you were going to segue out of that. But again, I did not present a formidable challenge to you. I'll work on that.
Yeah, I mean, you did. You gave it a good effort, but, I'm the GOAT. So I feel like we just are taking turns every week, Scott, profiling a different team from this 1A D1 Snake River Conference, because the standings are still incredible. Oakley 6-0 in league, 13-4 overall. Raft River 5-1 and 14-2. Cary 5-1, 13-2. Murtaugh 4-2, 12-5. Lighthouse Christian 3-2, 9-5. Shoshone is 2-4 in league, but they're 12-5 overall. So I mean, that top six just continues to amaze. We're going to hone in on Raft River this week because they had by far, I thought, the breakthrough win last week against Murtaugh in a game that goes to overtime. Raft River wins 63-61. Libby Boden, the hero in overtime, she makes a three from the right wing with about 17 seconds to go. Murtaugh gets a shot at the other end. I went back and looked at it. It could have gone either way. Murtaugh fans wanted the foul call and a chance to go to the free throw line to shoot. Didn't get it. And that's the way it goes sometimes. But Raft River escapes with this 2-point win, and they remain in striking distance of first place Oakley.
Yeah, that was a huge win because, I mean, that just puts them a game back of Oakley, and they avoided that second conference loss. And their only conference loss was to Oakley earlier in the season, and so those guys are going to tangle again, I'm sure, down the stretch because they have split on the regular season. Raft River winning early, and then the second time around it was Oakley getting the better of them. But you can't help but think there might be a third match in there come the district tournament. But that was huge because they stayed one game back, and anything can happen. And and this particular team at Raft River is, they're just a very unselfish group that has a ton of fun. I mean, they generally have a different high scorer every night, but they play really solid defense, and that's one thing that this team is doing really well.
Yeah, this is a team that I got to see at state last year, Scott, and they brought back almost everybody from the team. In fact, I think they did. I don't think they had a single senior on last year's team, now that I'm remembering that correctly. So all of these players that went to state last year and got that experience are all back for a good coach in Bart Dieters. But you're right. It all starts with the defense because Raft River trailed a lot of times against Murtaugh, and then they dug deep on defense, got a couple of stops when they needed to, and that allowed them to climb back in. But they came away with numerous steals in the fourth quarter and overtime to thwart Murtaugh offensive possessions.
Yeah, and we talk about that sometimes too. It's like, you're going to have off nights on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, you got to bring it every game and every night. And that's a tough sell sometime as a coach, because we're raised in this culture where, got to get mine, I'm going to be the star. The grinding and the hard work and the defense, that doesn't show up in a box score. And it's always a tough sell as a coach. And if you can get a team that drinks that Kool-Aid, you're gonna win a heck of a lot more games than you're gonna lose. And over at Raft River, they're drinking that defensive Kool-Aid right now, which is why they're doing so well.
And meanwhile, for Murtaugh, they're contemplating, what if we had been able to close out the game. There was 3 minutes to go in overtime, and Murtaugh pushed the lead out to 4, 60-56 on a pair of layups from Ashley Stanger. And then Giselle Gill came up to the line and made 2 free throws. And so Murtaugh had this 2-point lead with like 2 minutes to go. But from there, Raft River down 4, just kind of slowly chips away. Logan Jones makes a free throw. So it's 60-57. Raft River's within 3. And then 47 seconds to go. Jessie Knudsen's at the line for Raft River. She makes 1 of 2 free throws. So it's a 2-point game, 60-58. Murtaugh gets it back. They're going to the foul line. Briley Widmere is at the line. She's got a chance to make 2 free throws, push that lead back out to 3, can only make 1. So it's a 3-point game, 61-58 with 37 seconds to go. And if she had made both, it would have been back to a 4-point lead. Caroline Schumann posts up on the block for Raft River with like 20 seconds to go. Well, 30 seconds to go. She scores. So it's 61-60. Raft River's back to within 1, but Murtaugh still has the ball. They've got great free throw shooters, but they turn it over on a traveling violation with like 17 seconds to play. So Murtaugh turns it over. Raft River gets it back down 1. And that's when Boden sinks that 3-pointer to put Raft River up 2. And then even still, Murtaugh had another chance with the shot in the lane. It basically, as time expired, couldn't get it to go. So Murtaugh had a 4-point lead with 3 minutes to go in overtime, made 1 of 2 free throws, turned the ball over on a traveling call, missed a bunny in the lane. So, Murtaugh had plenty of opportunities to win this game. And so I know Coach Todd Jensen and his girls got to be feeling like, man, we left a lot out there. We would love a rematch with Raft River at some point.
Oh, yeah. And again, week in and week out, we talk about just the grind of this conference. But, yeah, this particular game was, according to their coach, it was like one of the most exciting games they've been in for quite some time. From the fans to the energy. And then when kind of Libby knocks that shot down, what was so surprising to Coach Dieters was that how calm she was. Just like you said, she was just like a pro, very calm. All right, time to win it, and then just drains it. And it's cool to see because, sometimes we forget as fans that these kids are, 15, 16, 17 years old, and they are playing in front of a bunch of adults who are acting like children and screaming and yelling. And I'm not saying they're bad behaviors. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying it's just the pressure. And for these kids to make plays after play and Libby to hit a game winner and stuff. Sometimes you got to step back from the situation and go, man, that's pretty cool. Kept it all together. You're a 16-year-old kid, and you were ice water in the veins, with everybody screaming at you. Kind of cool. I don't know. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, and I think getting to state last year, and getting to the semifinals, Raft River had the luxury of playing Lapway in the semis last year, and of course Lapway ran through everybody. But that experience, I think, helped them in this moment. Both sides had 4 players reach double figures in scoring in that game. For Raft River, Logan Jones had 19 points. Reagan Jones had 13. Caroline Schumann had 12. And then Boden, the hero, she had 10, including the game-winning 3. Murtaugh had 4 players in double figures. Addie Stanger with 17. Briley Widmere with 15. Courtney Jensen with 12. And Ashley Stanger with 10. And that's what makes all of these teams, even Oakley, that's what makes them so good. There's not one player that you can hone in on and say, okay, if we stop, like with Carey's boys, if we stop Carson Perks, we've got a chance because, he scores 30 points every night. You can't do that with these girls teams. They've got so many different ways they can beat you.
Yeah. And coaching girls is a whole lot different than coaching boys, for starters. And I mean, I've been varsity coach for both of those, guys and girls. And it's different. It's a lot different. And this particular team at Raft River, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you play defense and you don't know who your high scorer is going to be, you're going to win some ball games. And these girls are, according to their coaches, it's that small town thing again. I mean, they're active in just about everything. I mean, on this team, you've got cheerleaders, dancers, singers, they're multiple sport athletes. They're showing livestock. They're active in the community. I mean, these are the kids that are driving that community. And I'm a huge fan. And as anybody that's watched our podcast know, of all of these small towns, I just love them. I mean, they are Americana at its best, and Raft River's right there with it.
Yeah. So last year, Raft River and Oakley ended up playing 4 times, Scott. I don't know if we're going to get to that this year, but last year it was wild. Oakley won the first matchup by 2, or excuse me, Raft River won the first matchup by 2. Then Oakley won the second matchup by 2. That set the stage for the district championship, which Raft River won by 4, 30-26. And then because of max preps, they got slotted up against each other in the first round at state in the 4 versus 5 seed, and Raft River won that game as well. And then, of course, got to the semis. So, could we see Raft River and Oakley play 4 times? I mean, it's not impossible.
No, absolutely not impossible, especially when you know that those two are right now the top 2 teams. And, unfortunately, this conference isn't going to take 6 awesome teams to state. So it is so important to stay in that top 2 range. So, you kind of have, I mean, I don't want to say an easier path through the district tournament because I don't know if there is one in this conference, but home games or actually, you know what, this conference tournament is going to be played, a lot of it right here in Jerome. We're hosting them again. And so I'm going to see all of these teams play and might even be on the mic for it, doing the PA for most of these games. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm insanely jealous of that. As we're recording this, it is Thursday, January 19th. Tonight, Scott, Raft River is at Carey. The winner of that game is alone in second place in the conference standings. That is a big one tonight. And then Carey plays Murtaugh in Murtaugh to conclude the regular season. So Carey's kind of the one team still that kind of controls its own destiny more or less. Everybody's lost to Oakley at this point. But Carey has the inside track at finishing in second place by winning out essentially.
Yeah, they do. I mean, there's only a handful of games left.
Right.
And every single one of them is going to make a huge difference. And I'm just really anxious to see this district tournament firsthand.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on these final few matchups of the regular season and see how everybody gets seeded out there. But our weekly stop at the Snake River Conference once again did not disappoint.
No, it did not. And before we move to our next topic, hey, quick shout out to our Jerome Lady Tigers who knocked off Minico last night.
Yes,
in a thriller, 51-50, handing the Spartans their first conference loss, and that's a pretty dang good Minico basketball team too. So I just want to give a shout out to our girls.
Yeah, so a little behind the scene, little inside baseball here on how we do the podcast. Usually every Sunday or Monday, I'll text Scott like, "Hey, here's a couple of topics we can talk about." That gives you enough time to strong arm people into giving you information, and then you do a great job of doing research. And then we come together on Wednesdays, usually sometimes Thursdays, to record. Already, I can tell you, we're going to talk about that Jerome game next week on the podcast more in detail. And then there was a really good boys game last night between Valley and Lighthouse Christian. Lighthouse won by 3 at Valley. We'll talk about that more in depth on next week's episode as well. So that's already 2 you can put away in the hopper. So let's hop on over to boys basketball and the 2A Canyon Conference, where all year, Scott, we've been talking about Wendell, right? Wendell is the team. Wendell is the one that's going out and excelling in non-conference. And when you look at the standings, it is still Wendell with the better overall record, right? The Trojans are 8-3, Declo is 7-6, and yet when they played for the first time last week, it was the Hornets that came through with the victory by a final score of 53-45.
Yeah, and you go from this conference we just got done talking about that's got 10 teams in it to this now a 3-team conference. Used to be 2.
Right.
But with the addition of this community school joining them, this is a 3-team conference. But really, I mean, there's no bigger, like, you say Declo, you include Wendell in the sentence. You say Wendell, you include Declo in the sentence. I mean, these 2 schools just play each other in everything because they are the 2 people in the conference. And it's a bizarre conference. So whenever they get together, it's going to be a battle. And you're right. Even though Declo has got the worst record, they got a huge win over Wendell the other night.
Yeah, Wendell started the year undefeated. They were off to an 8-0 start. And since the new year, Scott, Wendell is only 1-3. They've lost 3 in a row to American Falls, Declo, and then Filer. Now those are 2 3A schools, and then the game against Declo. Right. And I still think Wendell is fine, right? They're going to be. The thing is, though, this is a league that only gets 1 bid to state. So we saw this last year when Valley was in the conference, where the 3rd place team in the regular season was the team that actually won the district and got to go to state. So I think no matter what happens here, Wendell is okay. But for Declo and head coach Jacoby Fox, what an exciting win, and one that you can really, put into the ground as a stake of building your program.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, Jacoby Fox is, he's a Declo boy, right? But he's been around the game of basketball. So, I mean, he's back home and doing a great job with these boys. I mean, we talked about how Raft River's girls are just tough and defensive, and what this is the same Declo team as well. I mean, you could say the same thing. These guys are just terrific energy. They rebound well. They play good defense. And again, you do those 2 things, you're going to be in a lot of games. I mean, granted, they do have inconsistency in scoring and they don't shoot the ball very well, but I'm telling you, sell them on defense, you're going to be in the ball game. And that's kind of why Declo is hanging around, and there's a few more battles with Wendell in store this season.
Yeah. Wendell, we know they've got, a really slick set of ball handlers with Diego Torres, who had a great soccer season this year for Wendell. Carson Lemoyne at 6'5" down low is a tremendous presence underneath. You look at Bodie Cutler, who's another great guard in the backcourt. Those are kind of the main guys for Wendell. And I'll admit, I wasn't really sure, who Declo was going to lean on this year, but who are some of the players that have really emerged at the forefront for Declo this year?
Well, I mean, right now, a couple of standouts, they're getting some really good minutes from a sophomore post named Emmett Gibby. He's getting close to averaging a double-double every game. I mean, definitely gets the double in the rebounds, but he's getting closer to that double-double average, which is incredible. They're getting another good performance or minutes out of Maxton Snedeker, their junior point guard. So he's dishing the rock off pretty well, and he's getting everybody involved in the ball game. and he's taking charges, he's dishing out charges, but he's really providing some good minutes. And then, they have a senior guard, Bryson Allen, who's shooting, 90% from the free throw line and can really create and make shots for himself. And if that can develop a little bit more, that might provide a little bit of that scoring inconsistency that, Declo needs coming down the stretch. But, talking to Jacoby this week, we always are looking for funny personality quirks, things that, kind of set these players apart, because as just the casual fan, we see Declo boys basketball and we associate, names and numbers, and that's it. And we just kind of forget sometimes that, these are people that have their own weird personalities. And so I think Jacoby had a lot of fun telling me some of the stuff about his players. And I want to share some of it with you because I think it's pretty funny. Let's take, number 2, Jack Taylor. I don't know if anybody knew outside of Declo that this kid is an accomplished pianist. He's plays the piano very, very well. You've got Emmett Gibby, who we just talked about. He's a conductor at his church and leads the congregation during hymns. And you want to talk about, and I found this part about Emmett pretty fascinating too, because we talk about these small towns and how tough these kids are because they're just not. You don't make them like that in the bigger cities. They just don't. There's something about small town toughness. Well, when Emmett was 7, he had stitches put in his leg by his dad, who is not a medical professional, without any pain meds or numbing agents, and there was no crying. And I'm like, holy cow, that's incredible. You got and some other interesting things and that people don't know is like Jacob Rasmussen was in a near fatal car accident before his junior year of high school. And he battled his way back with, rods and pins holding, himself together, and broken back, broken pelvis, broken everything really. And he was able to play football this season. And for this basketball team, he's going to be the first guy to dive on the floor, take a charge, or sacrifice anything for the team, right? And so those kind of little tidbits provide some reality to these players, which I just absolutely love to read about. And then you get a guy like Deegan Edgar, who likes to eat cold pizza over the top of hot pizza, and and claims to be one of the best boat tubers in southern Idaho. So just ask him; he'll tell you, right? You got Will Gerard, who refuses to eat any kind of frosting. So he has put his foot down on frosting. None. So I'm sure birthdays were a treat at his house, right? Cakes were different. And then Baxter Lee likes to spend his time, doing stuff like wakeboarding, riding dirt bikes, but he also loves to build gingerbread houses. Right? Gavin Rasmussen, a highly skilled painter. Okay. And then Maxton Snedeker has been identified as an above average pumpkin carver. Dude, I'm not making this up. This is awesome. I love this. And so, if any other coaches are out there watching and I contact you for, some information, I want to chat or whatever the case is, this is the stuff I love. It's just so much fun.
It sounds like Jacoby went to every guy on the team and was like, "Hey, what's something people don't know about?" And you maybe got a couple of like, "Yeah, I'm an all right pumpkin carver, I guess."
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there's a few liberties taken in there.
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, I would say maybe most of them, if not all, are based on fact or truth or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a ton of fun. that was a lot of fun.
And I will say right now, I stand with Will Gerard. I don't like birthday cake either. I do pie. If it's my birthday, like let's have a pie and everybody get a slice. And so I'm with you, Will. All right, I got your back.
I'm not a big frosting guy either. I can deal with that, but it's not so adamant that I put my foot down and say no to frosting. But I do find interesting the cold pizza over the top of hot pizza. I mean, I'm going to try that, and I'm going to let you know how that turns out. And then I think Deegan, Edgar, and I are going to have a little chat about cold pizza over hot pizza.
Well, yeah, I've got a question for Deegan. Do you put it topping side so they're like it's a sandwich where it's crust on either side, or is it?
I would think so. I would think that'd be the only way you could do it. It's like a pizza sandwich. But I mean, people do that when they eat real, hot pizza, but the cold versus the hot, that's what I'm really curious about. So, and that's going to be an easy fix. Now, as far as like Emmett, I'm not going to go put stitches in my leg or have, somebody do that to me. But, so awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Any future coaches that we may reach out to, this is what helps everybody get to know these kids. Not just that, oh yeah, he goes out and shoots, 50% from the floor and scores 20 points a night, but like, gets to know them on a personal level. We find out who the real psychopaths are.
Yeah. It's a good segue because of my daughter's assignment that I'm going to show you later.
Yeah.
So we find out a lot about the intricacies of their personalities, and really cool.
For sure. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on the Declo boys basketball team. Certainly, when you look at their overall record, and we talked about, they're 7-6, but they've had a lot of close losses. Nampa Christian is a team that's only lost 3 times this year, a fellow 2A program. They've lost to them twice by 7 and by 5 points. So 2 really close games there. They lost to Firth in overtime by 2, and Firth is leading their conference over in the East. They lost to Aberdeen by only 7, and Aberdeen's another. So, I mean, there's some close losses in there that have made this team stronger, obviously. And, of course, the rematch comes in Wendell Friday, February 3rd. Get your popcorn ready. That'll be must-see basketball.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun. And, in these close losses that you're talking about, I mean, you're going to get so much out of that as a team versus winning, 20 games on a season, because when it gets, to the tough moments in a game and you've got to dig deep, you're going to pull a lot from these close losses. You're going to figure out what do we need to do differently, but the feeling of being there is going to resurface, and it's not going to be unfamiliar to you. So, I mean, having close games, win or lose, man, you take so much out of it, and I used to, as a coach forever, I had teams that just blew people out. And then if somebody challenged us, you could just see them all pucker up because they have not been there before, and then I've been on the flip side where we had an average team that knew how to battle and grind and just found themselves in these tight games. And the last seconds where everything mattered, it wasn't unfamiliar to them. And so they were able to win some games they shouldn't have. Because of it. So I think Declo is going to be just fine.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch them as the season progresses. Let's wrap up with a bit of out-of-season news. Scott, we talked about this before the start of the football season back in the fall, just how many coaching changes there had been statewide, and it's continuing, especially like in the Boise area. Those 5A schools, man, they can't hold on to anybody. Jason Burton, who had been the head coach at Bora previously, then came over to Cary with his wife. His wife, Kayla, was the principal at Cary High School. So he resigned his head coaching position at Bora to make a move with his wife. He sacrificed that so she could take an admin job. And he had been helping coach at Wood River the past 2 years. Well, he is now Owaihi's head football coach. So he's going back to Boise. So Cary and Wood River, those communities are losing 2 great individuals in Kayla and Jason Burton. But the coaching carousel, man, it never stops in football. And that includes even at your school, Jerome High.
Yeah. We found out in December of this year that, our kind of longtime football coach, Sid Gambles, was going to step down and retire. And, he's been fantastic for us. Well-respected, well-liked, and just a really good guy to have on your staff, in your building. He does teach here. So, that's obviously a bonus, because head coaches sometimes are 50-50, whether they're teachers or in the building. But Sid's one of those guys, and it was just time for him and his family. And so all of a sudden we were left with a coaching vacancy. And so word gets out, and we had, some really good applicants apply, which speaks to the community. And we ended up making a hire a couple of days ago, and we hired Jerome, 1992 Jerome graduate, and former Kimberly football coach Rich Bishop. And so Rich Bishop's going to be taking over the reins here at Jerome High School in football. And we are excited to have him back home. Once a Tiger, always a Tiger.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job with Kimberly, certainly. And so I'm excited to see, Jerome has been very young the last couple of years, right? A lot of sophomores in the lineup and not much depth where, if you get hurt, it's like a house of cards. It goes down pretty quick.
Yeah. And so, what we're doing here is we are going to take pretty much what a blank slate. We're going to just kind of blank slate it all. And then Rich is going to build it, and I'm going to help him build it to where we get back to Jerome football that used to be when I played and when Rich played. I graduated in 88. He graduated in 92. And we were both on solid teams. I was fortunate enough to be part of 2 state championship teams when I was in high school. And when you talk Jerome football back in the day, there was none better, but times change, communities change, everything changes. And I think that's the right guy to have, because he knows what it was like back then. And the other cool thing about it is, I'm looking at my coaches that I have, and Rich is now a head football coach, Jerome grad. Our boys track coach, Jerome grad, girls track coach, Jerome grad, baseball coach, Jerome grad, that all went on and did great things and then came back home and wanted to be part of a community that helped raise them. And so I think that speaks volumes to, the Jerome community that we have, because, we do have that mantra, one team, one town, one family. And if you spend enough time here, that's so true. And it's reflected in our coaches that want to come back and be part of this, And so, I talked 4 head coaches that are Jerome grads, and then I've got about a dozen assistants that are showing up. A lot of them volunteers, but just want to be part of something and wants Jerome to succeed. So we are excited, and I think Rich Bishop's going to do a great job for us.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I've seen on Facebook, and I'm not sure who does it, but somebody, posts like old highlights from Jerome, like from the early 90s and stuff. Have you seen this, Scott?
Oh yeah.
It's pretty cool watching that old footage and stuff. And you could tell it was the 90s. Everybody looked a little bigger. The shoulder pads were a little bigger.
Yep.
Wasn't quite as...
we got that. It's funny because the guy that's doing that is last name is Williams, and Jerome guy through and through. And, there's names in certain towns that you hear and you associate it with the town. Williams and Jerome go hand in hand. And he's got all this archive footage. In fact, I've got 2 boxes in my other closet here of all of my high school games. I've got to get to them, but they're on 8mm, Right. So, you're talking old school. And so, but he's able to dig out all these archives and just highlight players and plays and games and whatnot. And it's a lot of fun to watch. But he does a good job.
It's cool to see, because not every school has that footage still. So that's a cool deal for sure. So, all right, well, that'll do it for this edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast. Scott, I'm eagerly awaiting your text. So
I sent it to you just a little bit ago.
Okay, all right,
you got it.
I'm a pro. I try not to look at my phone when I'm recording. So,
I'm just a great multitasker. So I already sent it to you about 5 minutes ago.
All right. Well, I can't wait. So we're going to sign off. Everybody enjoy the competitions this weekend. We'll see you back here next time for another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.